We are right at 7 o'clock, so I'll call tonight's City Council meeting to order. And Jolene, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Valento is absent, and Mayor Bain.
Here. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, we have an agenda before you. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of your choosing. And if you would like to speak in open forum tonight and have not signed up, I will pause after I've gone through the list. And if there's anyone else that would like to speak, I would invite you to do so. As I say your name, please come to the podium. And if you could state your name and address for the record, and we'll go from there. John Waller. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Waller. I live at 14010 Homestead Avenue in Hugo, Minnesota, 55038. And for full disclosure, I'm the current manager from Washington County on the Rice Creek Watershed District. And I'm not here to speak for the Board of Managers tonight, but as a private individual citizen. So as I annually come and talk to you over the years, I generally give out the collections that have been made by the Rice Creek Watershed District. And I have that tonight. Mayor, if I could approach, I'll hand it out.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Actually, you know what? You guys have redecorated. I'm here tonight to encourage you as cities to participate in watching how the money is spent and been collected by the watershed. And as you can see in the column, you can take a look at Forest Lake's contribution. It's about $1.2 million altogether from Washington County. That's the way down from Willerny up to here. And Forest Lake has contributed $226,312 this year. So my annual question to you is always, what'd you get for it? And that's an important thing for you to look forward to. I want to thank the Forest Lake staff who sent comments to the Watershed District earlier this year about the rule changes. They were outstanding comments. By the way, they weren't the only ones. There were comments from all 3 counties and from 4 cities in 3 counties, and not one, and 3 different engineering firms that are involved. So but Forest Lake had the best comments to begin with, and I've had the pride of making sure it's in the record and numerous times, and I even used it the other day in my interview down at Washington County with the commissioners. The issue about having extra rules that are seemingly unnecessary or duplication is a great problem at the watershed districts. And the cities, as I've mentioned before, have the opportunity, because it is now from the Supreme Court decision of a couple years ago, the cities have to nominate their individuals that they want on the board to be. This is my reappointment year. I've served as a manager for 18 years now. Prior to that, I had one tour on the advisory committee for 6 years and one for 2 years in the 70s. I've been a member of the Washington County Governance Study Committee in 1998, which tried to get us down to the idea of having one permit, one location. And so I encourage you to work on that. We're still working it here at Rice Creek. Our rules aren't finished yet, and we'll be working on those as we go forward. I think there's a difference in the board's attitude about it, for philosophy about rules, and put more empowerment in the cities to be able to take care of your own problems locally. And I would encourage you also to become the local unit of government for the Wetland Conservation Act. I know in the past, many times people haven't been enthusiastic about that, but the days are gone when your engineering firms don't have whole special qualified individuals to handle those questions. And to give you an idea, on Wednesday's board meeting, we were asked to deny a permit application from an applicant, and some of the reasons were given were the Wetland Conservation Act. And in that, there's 3 portions in there that you have to go through. They want you to do it in the sequence. And the first was, is there some way you could not damage the wetlands at all? No net loss, in other words. And the suggestions from the watershed staff were build it in Hugo. If you're building things in your own town, that's a little odd, you know. Or could you put your retail on the 2nd floor? Or do you really need all those truck bays to deliver the merchandise you wish to sell in this building? Or couldn't you just make it a different building size and it'll still fit the zoning rules, but it wouldn't fit the client's needs that we're building the building? Yeah, I think a lot of that subjective judgments that those are can be best handled in the local level. And as Hugo does, they've taken over that authority. They're not the only ones, by the way. Mounds View now has done it, and so has Circle Pines. And so we encourage you to do it more often. I want to thank the council for the very gracious and kind letter that they wrote for my reappointment the last time. I appreciate that very much. And if you have any questions of me or a further interview, I'm available to help you at any time. And I see you have a Clear Lake Association here tonight, and I hope that those kinds of coordinations between the city and the lakes and the district are expanded. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here. Next is Don Thiessen. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Don Tyson. I live at 20411 206 Drive, Circle North. So tonight, on behalf of the more than 125 members of the Forest Lake Pickleball Association, some, in fact, many are here tonight behind me, we want to thank you first for making the resurfacing investment at Fenway courts this past summer. The Fenway Park ball fields, pickleball courts, kids play area, the hockey arena, they really are a first-class complex and a jewel for our community. And as a retired public works director, I know that investing in maintaining infrastructure is much cheaper in the long run than let it deteriorate to the point where you need to replace it. A few weeks ago, you may recall I emailed all of you about a big issue that was for me personally, that your Public Works Department took care of. But I know in the scheme of things that Public Works has to deal with, it was a very small issue. But I'll tell you that the resurfacing project may seem like a small issue to people, but it's these small issues that residents see and really make a difference. Especially when you consider all the items that you have to deal with as City Council and a mayor. Those small issues, they impact us, and how you handle it, it either builds or it destroys the trust and faith in the community on the big issues that you have to deal with. But just as important, taxpayer dollars were used on this project. And we know there's problems with it, and we're not seeing those addressed. I would suggest that nobody here tonight would accept the work that's been done out there if it was done on your own property or your own home. So taking action tonight to make this resurfacing project right is your way to tell the community that we're not going to accept poor workmanship in this city, and we're going to be a first-class community. And yes, more than just Forest Lake residents use these courts, just like the ball fields, just like other amenities in the city. And from a past study you've completed, you know that almost half of the sales tax in this community is collected by non-residents that are visiting places like the pickleball courts. So we appreciate and we need your help to make these courts right, so that any visitor or any resident, when they come in here and they see this sign in front of you that says Forest Lake, as good as it sounds, it really means that. Forest Lake is as good as it sounds. So thank you, and I know there's some other members of the steering committee that are going to speak tonight, and we certainly stand ready to help you. We want to be a partner in this solution and not a hindrance to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Lehman? Welcome.
Hi, welcome, Mayor Bain and the rest of the council. My name's Cindy Lehman. I live at 8559 North Shore Trail in Forest Lake. And as a property owner and a pickleball player, I'm here to speak on behalf of the repairs that were done on the courts at Fenway. Unfortunately, the outcome was not desirable. Last year, many people, as most of you knew, showed up here and the city council voicing their concerns about the courts and their decline in the condition. And the city council agreed that repairs did need to be made, preventing further decline on the courts, which was great. But the company came out, did the work, and within 2 days after the courts were reopened and redone, and they were reopened to the public, there was already bubbling and peeling on the courts, and then that started to make these open places on the court that really, I mean, it almost was better before they repaired it. I happened to be there, and the project manager showed up, and I asked him, I said, why is this bubbling? Did you open the courts up too soon? And he said, well, it's from the cement underneath and the water's coming up and that's what's making it bubble. And I said, well, why didn't you put, maybe couldn't you have put a sealer or a coating down first? And he said, well, I contacted a company, but they never got back to me. So he just went ahead and did the work, it sounded like to me. And then they did not want to repair the courts for quite a while because we, as everyone knew, had a lot of rain in the spring. And well, they finally came back, I think it was the end of August, and repaired the courts. None of the cracks were fixed at all. And then where they filled in, where these divots were, it wasn't even level. I said, I could probably have done better than they did. And then about 8 o'clock at night, I had come back to look at the work that they had done, and they showed up to paint. Well, it was already getting dark, and they had just a little paintbrush inside of this pop bottle that was cut off, and they were painting this area. And it does not look like good workmanship, for sure. And if this was something that was done in my home, I would not accept it. I would refuse to pay it. I don't know if the city has paid for this bill yet, but I'm just hoping that we as a pickleball community, we can come behind you and support you, and, just hopefully that will, make this company stand behind their workmanship. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark Salzman.
Hello, Mayor
Good
Bain
evening.
and City Council members. My name is Mark Salzman. I live at 21273 Floral Bay Drive here in Forest Lake. And I'm the new president of the Clear Lake Association. I'm still in training from Doug Ramseth. He's doing a good job. And I'm here to voice support for item K on the consent agenda regarding the invasive aquatic species funding agreement between the Clear Lake Association and the City of Forest Lake. We worked with Dave Adams over the last several months, and it's really a mirror image of what was done with Forest Lake approximately a year ago. And again, there's been good partnership in my 15 or so years on Clear Lake. I've been learning a lot about all the different agencies in the City of Forest Lake, and really good partnership. Forest Lake, as good as it sounds, I think Clear Lake is part of that. Clear Lake is as good as it sounds as well. And we appreciate the funding that we've done somewhat ad hoc with the city. But I think putting this funding agreement in place really sets us up for future success. I mean, unfortunately, we just got confirmation from the Minnesota DNR literally three hours ago that we have zebra mussels in Clear Lake that a resident found a few days ago, and they're out today and confirmed that. So, you know, we also just spent about $60,000 to do a lake treatment for Eurasian water milfoil this past summer, which is about 3x what we normally spend for weed control for Eurasian water milfoil. So we would appreciate the council approving the agreement. Our members stand ready to contribute. We have a record number of members at over, I think, 83%. Is that right, Doug? So, you know, we've actually had increased membership, and which is really encouraging. And we've got a lot of support from, you know, the majority of residents on Clear Lake. So, if there's any questions, happy to take that. Otherwise, I've already approved, I think, the agreement, and look forward to the ongoing partnership. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for being here. Eugene Hurstel.
Eugene Hurstel, 10234 204th Street. I'm just going to say well-spoken. We've got a number of people here that are really interested in getting the courts you know, right, the way it should be, and I appreciate you listening to us. Thank you for letting us, the council and the maintenance to get it resurfaced and that. And I just hope that we can work something out, and that you have a new person that's come on here, I think, as a park person. And we're encouraged about that, and that we can be part of that. But thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. This is the end of those that have signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak tonight that maybe didn't sign up? All right, we'll close open forum and bring the agenda back to council. Council, for your consideration tonight, we have a consent agenda that is fairly lengthy. For your consideration is consent agenda items 6A through 6T. I will entertain a motion or any changes.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we would approve consent agenda 6A through 6T as in tango.
There's a motion and a second from, motion from Councilmember Husnick, a second from Councilmember Erickson. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our regular agenda this evening, our first item is 7A, the Lakes Area TV and Forest Lake Cable Commission 2025 budget.
I wasn't ready for that to go that fast.
The annual Mr. Peterson show. You all are missing quite a show with Paul Peterson.
Sure, thank you, I'll take that.
You know how to clear a room, Paul.
I'm used to it, I'm used to it. Hello, Mayor, thank you for that praise.
We're glad you're here.
Here for my annual, kind of just
Pause
explain.
Pause for just a second while we.
Gary will stay with me. I'll be here. Oh, that's right, you're here for something else.
All right, floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm here for my annual, just kind of share with what we're doing, and before I get to the budget, you guys got a summary of what was kind of in it. I just thought I would do a quick recap. I know it starts like it says it's the evolution of cable access, but it's not going to be that long, not since the beginning of time. And just to kind of go over what we do, just so you know, are refreshed what we do in the community. Cable access was built in the 80s. Mainly people didn't have TVs. It was the only way to see city council meetings. You needed actual cable TV. And since then, it has just boomed. Internet made it huge. Now I get emails from people literally all over the world thanking me for productions we do and praise for things we do. So it's fun out in the community doing these things. As part of the reach, I made it as easy as possible. We now have streaming apps on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, so you can install our apps on any of your smart TVs. Everything's on our YouTube. We now live stream on our channel, so even if you don't have cable, you can watch us on the internet. So you can see anything we do pretty much on any device you have, and I work very hard to make that work that way. And then there's always been this stigma of, oh, that looks like cable access. I try very, very hard to fight that, and I put a lot of pride and a lot of work into what we do, and equipment has gotten so high that right now I film with what's called Netflix approved cameras. These are actual Hollywood cameras I get to use. And so the quality, I strive very hard to make it a level that's just above where you don't know this is cable access, this just looks good. As a result, I just got nominated for an Emmy I do a mock car crash every 2 years. This year we did it, and I thought this seems pretty good. So I'm gonna submit this, and I did, and I got nominated. My wife and I go to the Emmys next Saturday. She got me a tux, and I'll let you know. And I actually reached out to the station that is filming it, and they are sending me a live stream, so you will be able to watch the Emmys on Lakes Area TV Live or on our website. You just go to lakesareatv.com/live, and you can watch me win an Emmy, hopefully.
What is the category?
Community service.
Wow.
So I entered it for the mock crash,
Yeah.
and so we're up against production companies in the 5-state area. So Iowa, there's a Care 11 person in there. So it seems kind of cool. I'm fairly excited about it.
This is amazing.
It's great. Always proud of, this goes back to when I first started. I came in, addressed the council then, asked Mara, one of the first things I was told, what would you like me to do? Work more with the schools. First thing I did is I went and introduced myself to Caldwell, said, let me build a studio. He laughed, but eventually called me back. We did it. I work with students constantly. We have a ball. Last year I was teaching a kid 3D animation. Another kid comes to me, wants to learn how to make movies. So I just take them step by step, the process of how to do it. I work with students absolutely constantly. The royalty called me 2 weeks ago, said, we're doing our royalty video. Will you help us make this? So I show up with them, we plan it out, we film it, and I edit it for them. So they all know, teachers, students, that they can call me, and we just kind of work with them. I try to make them do as much as I can. It doesn't always work that way. A lot of times it's me finishing projects at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I enjoy that too. I enjoy making stuff for them and seeing their faces when they see it. Inside the studio, created a very high-end podcast studio, works very well. Would love for council to come in and just talk about what you're doing in government. I always think it's cool to show why you make the decisions you do. We get to stand here and see the decisions you make. Come and explain why. This is your life experiences that got you to make that decision. I think people like to know that. So, I have students that make them. I have teachers that have podcasts. We have a sports podcast. So whatever people want to do, I show them it, and it's very simple, and they absolutely love it. Back to the community and the schools and the partnership, now they've come to kind of count on us. Last year graduation, we had 6,000 people watch it live. Wow. And I got an email from a parent who just thanked me in a 3-page email that her dad got to see his grandkid graduate, and he lived here, but she said he'd have never been able to navigate to the bleachers, sit in the bleachers, and make it through the whole thing. And by watching, he said he felt like he was there because of the productions we do. So I love getting emails like that. We just had our opening football game this year. We had 9,000 live viewers. That's the most live we've ever had. Unfortunately, Forest Lake had a power grid outage with 2 minutes left to go. Forest Lake was down by 3 and marching down the field. So it didn't end well for me, but one of my cameramen was smart enough to hit record, and so we literally have the whole blackout of it, and the kids in the stands start singing and dancing, and they got all their phone lights on for 10 minutes until the power came back on. So it was really cool. So the next day I put the ending up. Unfortunately, we did not march the field and win, but that was our best viewer. We just, we averaged, we just did the football game this last weekend, 3,000 people watch it live still. That's just pretty good. And so I even have the coaches and the activities directors say, we have so much to do here. I get home and I crack a beer and I watch your football game because that's just what I do and I love it. So I enjoy doing all that. The original reason for cable access TV was government meetings. I worked very hard to make this work. Anybody should be able to find any topic that they want within a minute if you go to my website. You pick the meeting. I have it categorized by years. You can go to City Council, drop-down opens, click on the meeting. The agenda pops up on one side, chapter markers on the other. Click where you want to go, starts playing instantly. I do the same thing on our YouTube channel. So all the chapters are underneath the YouTube video. At the top of the description, you can actually download your agenda and jump to wherever you want on our YouTube channel as well. So I just try to make it as easy as it is for people to learn what you guys are doing and to follow along. And that being said, I love going out in the community and filming cool things. Blake put on a really cool thing with the street dance. I had a ball going to film that. And I feel that's like kind of an archive for the community to see the cool things we do in Forest Lake. I absolutely love going out and filming those. People ham it up for me when I walk in. They don't know who I am. They just see a camera and they run to me and they just do goofy stuff. And I love that too. So I enjoy being a part of that, and just meeting people wasn't something I grew up total introvert, still am a little bit. And one of my favorite parts of my job is going out and meeting people, learning cool stuff they do. So thank you for that, and that's my little pitch.
Wow.
So now the budget, the first page, I summarized just kind of the main things, but they're all kind of in here as well. We are, because cable access subscribers go down, as streaming services go up, our budget becomes tougher and tougher each year. This year, last year we were under and we're gonna break even because I went and did a lot of productions out in the community as a production company to kind of make up for it. This year we are gonna be 7,500 in the red, but this is an audit year and the bid we have for our audit is 10,000. So without the audit, we would be in the black, but that's just kind of where we're at. And I searched local companies, not local companies, and that was just the going rate for an audit for us. So I tried really hard to get past that, but that's just what it is. So, and I do believe I'm trying new sponsorship opportunities. So like say for the hockey season, over the whole season, we will have 30,000 viewers. You know, I've already got both boys and girls team to sign on for every game. So if I'm going out to pitch sponsorships with 30-second commercials and stuff to local businesses, I can guarantee you 30,000 viewers, you know, for the season. That's pretty good for a small company. Plus, you're getting an Emmy Award winning producer to make your commercial. So I have ways that I'm going to try and make up that money. I think I can do it, but it's not going to come from sponsorships. There was a lot of legislation last year. I work with a lot of other stations. St. Paul, Minnesota, and Minneapolis have gigantic cable stations, millions and millions of dollars. They are in legislation trying to get some internet dollars. Right now we only get cable TV dollars. You know, it's the same agreement, but the model as how it distributes has changed. And cable stations don't, or cable companies don't want to do that. So there's people fighting for it. It may or may not happen. It did not happen this year. We were in a big Omni bill. The bill got thrown out. So they said it was a great start. They're going to try again next year. I don't know enough to know whether they're just telling me that or if it actually has a chance. We'll see. So I will say Midco Comcast Charter has very big people in there fighting against us. So yeah. It is what it is. So I love doing what I do. I would love for you to approve this and let me keep doing what I do, and I will keep trying to make it break even. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you, Paul. Sure. We love what you do as well, and you're just great at it, so thank you. One of the things that comes to mind as we're thinking about kind of Cable Commission and what's coming up in this upcoming year, is this a year when we, when is the expiration date of our joint powers agreement?
2028.
2028.
And that, I kind of summarized in there a little bit, not to cut you off, I apologize,
no,
but the commission agreed that we were going to overspend for the audit this year, but yes. We have quite a bit of surplus money, so it's not going to hurt us to do the audit, and this will probably all get renegotiated in 2028. So we were okay doing the audit to get us through this, and when we get closer to rewriting the joint powers, then we will kind of figure that out.
Yeah, as I just think about, you know, building this as a sustainable base, and if, yep. Because of the structure, if sponsorship opportunities are limited, I would just encourage us to keep looking for what does that other source of funding look like, especially as we're going into joint powers agreement updates. We have a joint powers agreement with Columbus on how we fund the fire department. That is a general fund supported dollar. Supported activity. To me, what you're doing is moved beyond, you know, what's just cable access and what's currently, thankfully, still funded primarily by cable access, but it's a general community service around just media awareness and, you know, media education. And I would just hope that we find whatever that funding source needs to be to make this long-term viable, because it's just a gem in my opinion. So
I don't know what that is, but I have faith we will find something. So
yeah,
and my current board chair says yes, the sponsorships sound good, but that's not a guaranteed sustainable thing.
Correct.
Grants aren't a guaranteed sustainable thing.
It's challenging.
So.
Right. It's challenging. I also, as I think about fading into the sunset here, I have been a little bit of a stickler on this audit. It is a good decision to, or a good topic to to decide at some point of what does that look like. Future joint powers agreement, change in responsibilities. There could be some sort of structure that, sure. by structure, makes that audit requirement go away, or also the entities at the table may also choose that that's not needed. I've been a little bit of the stickler of wanting the audit, of just it's a little bit of blanket insurance, in my opinion, but I do recognize it is some financial stress, and I think it's open to conversation, certainly as we're moving into what new structure might look like under a different joint powers in the future.
We're a little worried this time because Diane, our board chair, is retiring and she's just a financial guru.
There's another.
She found 10 faults in the audit and sent them to them, and they were like, oh, thank you for catching this. So I don't even know what to make of
She
that.
has some giant shoes to fill, and so also kind of reason of like overall financial, you know, who's doing what with the financials is, I think, some opportunity to reevaluate that in the future. But
Total side note for any of you that may be running for office going forward here. So this year is the first year I'm going to have live local election results on our channel as well as on YouTube. And I'm sending the links out to every restaurant and every bar in town. So, and I will be the one sitting there staring at the Secretary of State site, so you guys don't have to. And I update them so you can just go to Pizza Pub and have a beer. And they're pretty good at airing our games and our sports as well, so I know they will put that on the TV, and you can just go have fun and just see how you're doing.
that's great. That's excellent. Very good. Any questions, any other questions for Paul or topics to consider? All right. Looking for a motion to approve our 2025 budget as presented. Any?
Also move approval of the 2025 Cable Commission budget as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And motion carries. Thank
Awesome.
you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
Please give us an update on those Emmys. That's
Oh,
exciting.
you can guarantee I will.
That's
You'll hear
exciting.
about it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Paul.
All right, our next item this evening is consideration of Resolution 1014-2401, the TIF transfer, and Kevin.
Mayor and City Council, in front of you is a resolution to approve a transfer of TIF funds into the Capital Equipment Fund. The city annually completes TIF reporting to the Minnesota OSA with the help of our consultant. And this TIF district, #1 Industrial Park, was decertified in 2022. There's about $23,000 remaining in that fund, and through working with those consultants, when this TIF district was created, there was land conveyed to the city that was assessed at a higher price than what the purchase was, so there was a land write-down, which was the city's way of contributing to the TIF district. So with working with them and with the remaining funds left over, we are recommending transferring the remaining balance into the Capital Improvement Fund, which is a fund that was used to help fund this TIF district upon creation. So with that, I would look for recommendation to approve the resolution as presented in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Kevin. Council, any questions for Kevin on this topic? All right, looking for a motion if anyone's ready.
I'd make a motion that we approve Resolution 10-14-24-01, the TIF transfer, as explained by Kevin.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And our motion carries. Our next item this evening is 7C, consideration of the Veterans Memorial design and approval. Abby.
Thank you, Mayor Bain, members of the council. As you're aware, the Veterans Memorial Committee has been working for a number of years to design and eventually construct a memorial. Earlier this year, the council committed to placing that memorial in Lakeside Memorial Park. I've included in your packet and then up on the screen kind of a timeline that I've been working with the committee on in trying to construct the memorial between fall of 2025 and 2026 to stay within some of the parameters of some of their funding sources. They are short about $275,000 for the $775,000 project. They know they need to fundraise quite substantially before the spring, and so they are going out to do some very targeted marketing and outreach and fundraising efforts in the community. So tonight before you is the approval of the design of the monument, So then that way what the public continues to see, we all know is going to be in essence what will be built. I'll run just a quick through the design, but Gary Lee is here with a short movie that display or kind of highlights the project for you. Give me just a second here. I think you've seen this kind of design already in the Lakeside Memorial Park that shows that kind of circular design with a monument structure in the middle. This isn't really a new design, but what is new to the council is that center sculpture piece that is a bronze cast two-sided tipped panel with eagles kind of flowing out of those tipped panels on the inside, where we have two different figures, one facing a flag, and then the other, on the other side, there's the eagle of a female soldier and a child. The other side is a male soldier coming out of the war-torn rubble. So tonight, what really is being kind of asked of you is to approve this overall design concept to let the committee continue their fundraising efforts. I also wrote into my staff report, maybe what I'll do is keep it on this one while we chat a little bit more. Well, I've also included in my staff report, this is a great opportunity for the council to provide any feedback regarding ongoing fundraising efforts. The committee has been made aware that before we'd actually start working on taking the project over formally, the city taking it over, we would need some sort of agreement in place with the committee, sorts of things addressing the donation, the funding, the who's managing the construction project, who's doing long-term maintenance. None of that's really been fleshed out at all. So I figured tonight might be a good opportunity to provide some preliminary feedback to the committee and direction to staff. But Gary Lee, a committee member, is here tonight to talk to this as well as give further presentation.
I think what we'll do is have Paul show the video, which gives some of the history and some information, and then I'll follow that up.
Can you put this back up? You're awesome. And just a quick note, they have reached out to me to help them fundraise, and so they may hire Lakes Area TV production to help go out into the community and fundraise, and this was kind of part of it, so.
For over 15 years, this community has shown its commitment to honor our veterans through the sale of memorial pavers, each one a testament to the service and sacrifice of those who came before us. Thanks to your continued support, these efforts have paved the way for something even greater. Now, we stand at the threshold of something truly special. A tribute like no other. Here, in this dedicated space, we envision a memorial that speaks to the courage and strength of our heroes. The central sculpture will be a focal point, surrounded by a stunning arrangement of sentinel stones, symbolizing the unwavering presence of those who have served. As you take in the view from the west, the memorial stands proudly, a powerful reminder of those who have given so much. Each detail has been carefully considered, from the placement of the sentinels to the central sculpture itself, designed to evoke deep emotion and reflection. This is more than just a design. It's a message, a tribute that will endure for generations to come. Our hope is to complete this lasting memorial by Memorial Day 2026. With your support, with 67% of the funding already in place, we return to the City Council and to the public, asking for the final approval and the remaining $250,000 needed to bring this vision to life. Together, we will create a space that forever honors those who have given us so much. We are so close. Let's finish this mission together.
And first of all, we have to thank Paul for this professional. I think he's going for another
Emmy Award.
Sure.
Very well done.
We have a whole plan laid out for a big video fundraising effort that I sat down with Mark Finneman and we kind of laid out how to go try and help them raise more funds.
And I just, you know, everybody is kind of aware of this, and we were here about a year ago, I think in November it'd be a year, and talked about this similar thing. And at that time, there was a centerpiece that was a tree with eagles on it, and there was some pushback on that was kind of a negative thing, depressing thing. It wasn't what we wanted. So anyway, from there, and I have to give Mark Finneman a lot of credit for his design team and he and his ideas, and Ron Miller on the committee that has put together these ideas and come up with a concept that I think would be really, really impressive for Forest Lake. And we see it as being a destination where community members, other members from, you know, the grandpa and grandma and stuff will come, and it'll be a picture place that they can come and appreciate. And so we look at it as kind of another asset for Forest Lake that will bring the residents as well as outsiders. But just to back up a little bit, 15 years ago, there's a guy by the name of L. Ewert, and he had a coffee group that they would get together, and I don't know if it's every morning or if it was once a week, but anyway, they would keep talking about it, and most of them were veterans, and they would constantly kind of bring the idea to that we don't do much in Forest Lake to honor our veterans. You know, yeah, we got VFW, yeah, we got the American Legion, but those are kind of private clubs, so to speak, and the general residents don't really have an opportunity to honor the veterans. And so from there, they formed an official committee that was part of the city doing, and a partnership with the city to form the Veterans Memorial Committee. And this kind of started things in 2008. And the film showed the beginning of it with the pavers down at Lakeside Park. And as that evolved, there was another design that was done similar to, or about that same time, that had water feature to it and so on. And as the committee changed and new committee members came, it showed that it was more and more less practical for having a water feature in Forest Lake, because it gets cold and it freezes and then it doesn't work. And the idea of the water was that the kids would come and be kind of a splash pad, and it would be something for the kids to appreciate the memorial, but that changed. Now our new design is and I'm going to read a little bit here, because I'll mess it up if I don't. So the center of it, and that's the part that was changed. You know, the raising of the pavers around the outside is the same as what we looked at before. The sentinels are the same, which each branch of service would have their emblem on the outside ring, and then the pavers, the normal pavement pavers, would be so that there'd be walkways all around it, so people could go all around it. But the center presentation has a specific meaning, and the viewing area is comprised of raised platforms where the memorial pavers orient around a central fine arts sculpture. 6 abstract sentinels edged, I just said that, and lean toward the center sculpture, each with a circular military service emblem they represent. The central raised podium is inscribed with the following words: "War ravages the world around it, yet the spirit of service, love, and freedom endures." And that's where the soldier on one side, and it would be a depressed looking wall behind him, so that he's in war. And saluting and such. And then on the other side is a lady dressed as a military lady with a child representing the family. And so those words are designed to kind of explain that this is a memorial to people and families that are affected by becoming a veteran. So, from there, we need money, right, Abby? So that we'd like to have your approval with this concept so that we can go forward with the money. We're looking for local contributions. trying to figure out who we would address it with. And the other thing I should tell you is that with this brochure and the illustrations that we have, we spent time at the Arts in the Park and got very, very favorable comments to this concept from the public. The other thing that has been done is visited 40 businesses within the city and showing what was being done. Again, literally zero criticisms, negative comments, or whatever. There's very large support by the business community and the resident community of the design and so on. Unfortunately, it costs a lot. I mean, I was going to say something that kind of tightens you up a little bit is the cost of things these days. But what's in your packet are estimates. You know, they're not bids specifically. So some of the things may come in lower depending upon business climate at the time that the bids are let. So we're hoping for that. But the other thing that we are doing is we are going to go to the legislature one more time and ask for $250,000 more to contribute toward this project. And of course, we won't know that until after the legislature next spring. Abby's got all the other answers.
Thank you, Gary and Paul. Abby, anything else for council before we open it up for council consideration?
I don't have anything additional to add, but I will note that their outreach efforts have recently brought in $7,000 from private individuals and foundations, so they are going out and actively trying to solicit funding sources throughout the community.
And maybe this was in your packet and I missed it. When is the next planned update to council, or what is the next council action that's needed?
Sure. So tonight, before you would be to approve the design. Between now and March, they do these targeted fundraising efforts, and we would start to talk about a formalized agreement with the committee and whomever would be responsible for having this partnership in the long term. So between now and March, this will be coming back before the council. The committee has been advised that without having the funds to do the work, the council might not be all that encouraging to enter into a formal agreement for the official acceptance of the memorial.
Thank you, Abby.
And essentially, when they have the money, hopefully by the spring, so that we can kick that project off in the fall.
Very good. Council, let's open it up for any questions or comments that you may have before we consider a motion on tonight's agenda item.
I do like that design a lot better than what they had before. That was, I'd heard those comments that you talked about, and this is a lot better, I think. So I like the design.
Other comments?
Yeah, I would agree. It's too much, not so ominous, and more welcoming, I think, to the park. So hats off to going back to the drawing board on that and coming back with a really nice design.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. Comment about the fundraising. Is there a nonprofit element to this at all to receive donations?
The city is the fiscal agent, and so anybody would be able to, I believe, would be able to write off the donations as part of their tax. I'm not a tax professional, so I shouldn't have even said could write it off. But we can provide them with a exempt status letter from the city.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about so much from a writing it off standpoint, but it's so much as there's some companies certainly around the area that maybe have a matching program corporately for their employee donations. And so but those company matches typically have to go to a 501c3. So I don't know if there's a nonprofit, a 501c3 that's associated with this effort at all from a fundraising standpoint.
Our committee is not. It's not, because we're a part of the city as far as the committee is concerned. So whatever the tax implication for contributing or donating to the city would be what would prevail, I believe. Now, I suppose it's something that if it was necessary, I don't know if the committee, as it is now, could do that, but it's a possibility that we could do that. and become inexpensive to become a 501c3, so it could be done. One of the things that is happening in that fundraising is in the Lions and Mason have one project going right now that has a dinner on the 26th of October at the Masons that we're raising money together, the Masons and the Lions, in order to get matching funds. So the Masons will be able to get matching funds from their master organization also. So whatever and that's what we're doing it together, but we're doing it in the Masons' name because then they can ask for matching money. So those kind of things we're hoping will materialize.
Yeah, I applaud the change in design, and I'm really excited about what I've seen on the screen, and there's nothing like a video to tell the story, and so I just think having that video put together just really helps to paint a very clear picture of what the goal is and to increase some enthusiasm. So kudos for getting this far. I'm happy to support the design today, and I would just plant some seeds that if funding does become problematic, it might be nice to see a phased approach where maybe there is an element that is a future phase. It would be, knowing that we together have received some state funding to make a foundation of the project happen. There's some timeframes around that, I believe. It'd be nice to at least see a portion of the project move forward, and then if there were a centerpiece or something that had to happen in a secondary effort, it might be wise, given the timelines, to be thinking about that. But I also appreciate there's nothing like a full finished project to gather support, and so I think the effort of let's go after a full finished project is well placed, and maybe let's have a solid plan B in our pockets if needed. Any other questions or points of feedback? Abby, did you need anything more specific for us?
It sounds like generally the council is favorable to the design and supportive of them moving forward with those efforts, and that's really what we were seeking tonight. So
yeah,
we'll continue to work with the committee to kind of help keep them on track for a spring construction specifications bid for fall 2025 construction starting.
Do you need an action tonight, or is the feedback sufficient?
I think that this is sufficient enough.
Okay.
If the council would like to make a formal motion to approve the design.
I mean, does it help you if we approve the design as a memorial, it's a event that allows some?
I think it's nice to be able to say the city council approves of this concept.
Yeah, so I would motion that council approve the Veterans Memorial design as outlined tonight. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Our next item this evening is Beltz Park improvements. And Dave.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Coming here tonight in September, City Council approved the amended grant from the DNR for Beltz Park. That extended it to December 31st of 2025. We're in a position now where staff is looking for some direction, what to do with that extension. Came with about 4 viable options of what the city could do. The first one would be just do nothing and return the grant. Just for reference, the grant is $300,000 for people who don't remember. We could approve the existing plan that was approved last year, rebid it and construct that. And then 2 new options that were developed this year. Option 1 would be to put the ADA compliant pedestrian facilities that would be required as part of this grant. And then option 2 would be the same pedestrian facilities, but adding a parking lot inside of Beltz. These 3 options were all attached, or all in the packet, including a spreadsheet breakdown of estimated costs, including what the grant would be. Just for reference, a playground itself, just to do that playground, is approximately $500,000. So if you're looking at what the city share is, if you were just to do the playground, you would be getting more by keeping that grant and getting those pedestrian facilities. So I know most of you have seen that playground on Upper Beltz with the plywood and the parts that are falling off it. It's kind of why staff was not recommending last year's option. We'd be adding a brand new playground structure on the lower level of Beltz, but doing nothing with the upper structure. So we'd have a brand new playground, but then one that's 20 years old on the top that's falling apart. I don't think that's a very wise use of city dollars. On top of that, then you're adding a whole nother playground structure. So at some point, you're gonna have to add that in the capital, which is another $500,000 somewhere in the CIP. But then 20 years from now, you'll have an extra playground at this park that will have to get replaced. So you're adding that annual, or not annual, every 20 years, you'll have an extra playground that you'll have to maintain. The shared parking lot, or the parking lot presented in option 2, we've been working with St. Peter's for a shared parking lot agreement. There was some confusion when the proposal came back from St. Peter's. I think Administrator Hant, it was unfavorable and may have directed Amanda not to pursue it any longer, and Public Works staff was on the impression that that was going to get reviewed. So at that last council meeting, that's kind of where that leg was. It was quite unfavorable on a few sections. There's always room for negotiation in those and some back and forth, but staff feels that if you can get that public parking into your public park and not have to enter in a shared use agreement, that's more favorable. And the location of where that parking lot is will now be centralized to where the playground would be, the entrances to the new pickleball and basketball courts, which also leaves room for a future pavilion, which leave a future skating rink, all these in this centralized area where this parking lot would be. That's really all I have of options. Just looking for council direction. As I noted in my memo, the October 28th meeting would be favorable to approve a playground. Prices for playground structures go up November 1st, and it's at least a 10% increase. So that's about, I'd say, $50,000 hit you would take after November 1st. Options 1 and 2 also need to get a full plans and specs and stormwater designed. It would be less stormwater than the option from last year, but that hasn't been looked at. There's an estimate of dollars to do that, but it would still have to get designed and approved by the watershed. So the timing of everything, ordering the playground equipment, getting the plans and specs, and getting it bid out next spring to have everything completed and it paid for by December 31st of next year. I know it's been asked that we should wait for a Parks Commission to have this, but we're running out of time, and if we don't get a commission seat until next year, I fear it'll be too late to get this playground equipment and plans and specs put into place. Really just looking for council discussion, council direction. I'm here to answer any questions and find a solution.
Thank you, Dave. Excuse me. Thank you, Dave. Council, open it up.
Could you say more about your comments around the watershed district and the effect of the parking lot?
So when we did option last year, we had to create a stormwater facility on the backside of the new playground. We're just creating more impervious. When you disturb more than 5,000 square feet, you're gonna have to do some type of stormwater control. Just even without the parking lot in there, we'll reach that 5,000 by doing all the sidewalk along South Shore Drive and the pedestrian facilities within the park. It'll trigger that stormwater requirement. So for either option 1, 2, or last year's, will require some stormwater work.
We're looking at these figures. Where will that go? Any idea where we'd be putting that?
That'll be part of that design where we can figure out where it's gonna be the least disturbant for future expansion. I mean, the last year's one was behind the playground where it wouldn't have been in the way. I think there'll be some options on the back sides of the parking lot or maybe closer to South Shore Drive. It's gonna depend on where the drainage goes and where we can grab that runoff.
Okay. I know in having recent conversations with Watershed District Lisa Comfort Lake Forest Lake 1, I mean, there is some, don't hold me to them to this, but I mean, there's been some interest on their part to want to partner on some of this stuff. And so I'd say let's see what kind of grants they might have available in addition to expectations and requirements. Let's see if they've got some money to put into this project.
Yeah, I know they were interested in that corner of South Shore and 11th as well, to do some kind of an educational, you know, stormwater feature that would have some signage in there that would explain, you know, how the water's filtered and all that. And if you could use it as a educational, you know, feature, I think there would be some assistance there.
I think you should provide some, I guess, more distinctive direction on that, just because this is why, right? So regardless of the improvements Dave just outlined, the project would be required to build a BMP to treat that new impervious area, right, to meet stormwater rules and requirements. Anything over and beyond that is what the watershed district's going to want to participate in. And if you're looking to expand those BMPs, that will take up more buildable area in this park if you had future plans for something else. Maybe some of the money that they could participate would go towards signage around some of the BMPs that would be required. So there's two different routes you could kind of go with that. Do you want to go over and beyond stormwater treatment and take up more space, or are you looking more at the educational component of that? So that'd probably give a better, clear direction for Dave to circle back with the watershed district. Hey, you know, we know we have to meet the permit requirements. Would you guys be interested in partnering with some education signage on those? You know, because there will be BMPs that are already constructed to treat the impervious reconstructed area.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'd like to preserve as much of the park as possible for future. So yeah, I mean, that, as you just laid it out, makes sense. Ask for that support to provide education.
I would agree. Preserve as much of the footprint for recreation and, yeah. Go ahead, Councilmember Roberts.
What, can you expound a little bit on the unfavorable feedback on from the St. Peter's and where that agreement went? And it sounded like at one point we were, you know, maybe plowing a sidewalk and maybe there was some movement, but now we're proposing putting a parking lot in. Must not be very favorable. I mean, real unfavorable.
I guess I don't want to get into the weeds too much just because I don't want to open negotiate or talk about it, you know, at a council meeting, but in comparison to the agreement that we have with Stella's and the golf course, it's a lot more unfavorable to the city. And that we have use of the entire parking lot year-round. This one is 30 spaces at times when the church is not being used. The rent is quite higher than what we are paying Stella's, and then just maintenance asked of snow removal and stuff of the city, that we have an option to build our own parking lot that would accommodate these 30 parking spots. It just may be wise to get ourselves out of a shared parking agreement. I don't think we'd be having the conversation if it was a commercial building. It's just a convenience of that. This is a church and they use the playground, and we've just historically used that parking lot, but we have this ability now to, when we redo this park, to add public parking facilities within the park. And I think future us would be happy that we put this parking lot in here instead of negotiating a contract every 3 years of cost and maintenance and that going forward.
And this certainly wouldn't be the only park in town with a parking lot. You would in my opinion, it makes sense to have on-site parking.
I understand that, but if we want to step into this a little bit, is there an option to push, try to negotiate something short-term? And, if we're looking at spending these park dollars and we're going to spend the whole year's budget on one, the parking lot obviously is a big piece of this thing, and, we've had this, it's worked for 40 years or 50 years to be partners with the church. They use it. With me not having the details of this feedback on this agreement, I can't make a decision tonight, to be honest with you.
So a couple of points, and in fairness, to everyone involved, it's essentially been a first draft that's shared, right? And so, is there how much room is there to move on it? That's unknown. It was, and I only know very high level, but there were a couple of areas of concern. One was annual cost, and then you've got this compounding effect of annual cost, and then there was some other provisions just related to liability. So it wasn't just a cost. There were some other parts of that agreement that would also need to be worked through. And again, fairness, we might be able to get there. I think where, just in my conversations with Christina, her feeling was, rather than having this ongoing, dollars out for parking, and also we are doing a substantial redesign. If this were any other building or any other project in the city, we would require, contained parking. And so I can see some wisdom in that. I also, though, have some angst over, gosh, why use space and dollars for parking if we can have an agreement that is potentially going to work out? What's challenging about this is the timeline and piecing out this project between, a decision on the parking lot and then the decision on other components that are also, relying on these grant dollars. So that's that's the challenging, time frame that we're under. Dave, is there an option of course, I just lost my.
Just a quick question on
go
that.
ahead.
So to be able to retain these grant dollars, would we receive those by just doing the parking lot? Or do we need to, the playground, or do we need to include the parking lot piece of this?
We need to do the parking lot, or the playground and the pedestrian facilities. So you could do any one of those three options.
So I think, if we're concerned about losing those dollars, maybe that's kind of that medium in between where we're going to use those dollars, add additional amenities to the park, but then slow this parking lot piece of it down until we really know what the full build on that park's going to be someday. We don't know that. We've talked about $1.7 million. We've talked about now, 700 or whatever. It just seems like unless there's some economies of scale on the building of everything that makes more sense to do both, it just seems like that would be a good happy medium where we're investing in the parks, updating this horrible playground situation, and still maybe short-term, maybe we end up doing the parking lot at some point, but short-term, more conversation with the church to see what a couple of years might look like.
If we get a lot of snow, I can guarantee you what happens at St. Peter's. They pile a bunch of snow up on that north side there, which is right up against Beltz Park. Well, then the kids park there, and they slide down those hills from the top all the way to the bottom and then back up again. So you're gonna have people parking in there no matter what. I don't know how you'd even stop it unless you had a bunch of signs in there, It didn't happen last year so much because we didn't get any snow, but I've seen some piles of snow there were 10 feet taller because they pushed the whole parking lot into that area. And so then it becomes this skating ground, or at least a sliding ground for the kids there. So there's going to be some other issues, and no matter what you do with parking.
To some degree, though, that's just a function of where an organization chooses to put their snow piles. I remember playing King of the Hill in the grocery store parking lot because they pile their snow up, and it's just what kids do.
I understand that, but it still brings into question the parking issue.
Well, certainly, here's my pushback and why I'm actually advocating for option 2. It's $150,000 more to us to have a parking lot, which we should have anyway. I mean, we can certainly go with option one, I guess, as I'm looking at this, because the real timeline is around the parking, or excuse me, the playground equipment. And we could negotiate and see if we can come up to a resolution. But we're still, in either way, we're still gonna be dealing with porta potties. And everything is orientated towards the center of the parking lot, or the park, where the parking lot is suggested to be. So if we don't go that route, the toilets are still over there. People are still parking out in the parking lot. It's just, it's really, I don't know, pretty funky in my mind.
So you're leaning towards option two?
I am.
Councilmember Husnick also brought up a good point about the snow, and it's the winter too, right? So we have a skating rink there in the winter, and right now people park on the grass and it turns into mud, and it's just hard to get to, or people are parking at the church parking lot and then walking down the hill and over to the rink.
I'm not arguing there's anything wrong with option two.
Yep.
I'm just saying, no matter if option two is there or not, that's what's gonna be happening in the wintertime.
Yep, I
And
was
so
just
there's gonna be
bringing up
parking
that
up there
point
no
that
matter what.
the city would be able to have a lot there for people to use that skating rink.
Right.
And to Councilmember Erickson's point, right now there's porta potties, but that can be a pavilion sometime. It's still option one and two have that area where the pavilion from last year's approved plan could still go in that same spot with water and sewer and bathrooms. It's just, we have so many other needs. I don't know if we should throw $500,000 into a pavilion with full facilities, which also brings up another issue of there's going to be weekend overtime and maintenance and all that stuff right now, and so that's another discussion for a Parks Commission to decide, do we want full service bathrooms at these parks, or do we just want portable enclosures with a pavilion? This one's unique because it's set up for that ice rink, so you have that warming house. In the future, maybe there won't be a rink here and it'll be somewhere else, or maybe there'll be the new design will have a full size rink with a massive warming house. I guess that part I don't know, but centralizing that parking lot and doing your pedestrian facilities still leave that whole lower level of the park completely empty and developable.
Can you put up on the screen the visual, which I think helps this conversation a little bit? So I came into tonight's discussion also supporting option two with some angst. I share Councilmember Roberts' concern on, gosh, why are we putting parking next to parking, and do we need to do that? And when I voiced this in a staff meeting last week, and staff very wisely said, look, we have a unique opportunity with this park. We're continuing to add amenities to this park, and we have a unique opportunity to kind of come into line with what we would require of any other facility in the city. And I agree with that. That is a true statement. The other thing that I just continue to come back to is the current alignment of all of the facilities. That central parking space is central and is aligned with the walkway to a potential new playground, which would be funded under option two. The remodeled courts that are currently going to be, they're in process right now, and are going to be positioned with access to the centralized parking place. And so there's just a lot of design elements that start to move together that, yes, it seems like now might be a nice time to kind of move ahead with a centralized independent parking facility that is kind of centered toward, all of the parking is centered towards the amenities of the park at not a terribly high incremental cost, given that's kind of the time we're doing the project. So that, coupled with, again, just some concerns over the first draft of the agreement, and just, we know that, over the life, shared parking agreements are always apt to change. And so, we've had times where, the Stella's agreement was kind of hanging in limbo, and were we going to come to agreement or not? this kind of pulls that off the table, and I think long-term is a good option.
What was the dollar amount, Kevin, or who could share what we've spent? What is the court project cost, total cost that we agreed on?
It was $450,000 with a contingency of 10%. So it won't be over 500 if, it won't be over 500.
So I know that increment's kind of small, but I mean, we're talking about over $1 million that we invest in this park in 2 years. I mean, that's substantial. I think the other advantage of holding out from the parking lot, we don't know what the full build out. We talked about not having a commission. We had not a Parks Commission for 2 years now. It gives us a little bit more options to what that park looks like when it's fully built out by not having the parking lot there. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there, but and also stepping into this instead of, I know 150 on a $1 million plus job is not that much, or it doesn't seem that much more, but it's still $150,000.
So would you say option one? I just want to, are you comfortable with option one?
That's what I'm saying with, again, not knowing, not having the details of the pushback on from, what the church is requiring, and allowing for additional time to maybe get a commission seated to figure out the full build out of this park. We're still doing new ADA compliant playgrounds. We can still get that grant from the DNR. Again, it just seems like a happy medium.
Is the add-on option for option two a potential for a future project? That we.
I was trying to do math.
Yeah, sorry. Is adding on option two, the new features of option two that aren't in option one, essentially the parking lot, can that be a future phase?
So I was just trying to do the math and see if that square footage would trigger another stormwater. Does that equal 5,000? I think you're gonna probably spend $50,000 to tear out what you put in than to put it back in again. Plus your added cost 10 years from now or 5 years from now, what blacktop prices are. So you're putting in a 10-foot trail, but then you're gonna have to rip it all back out to pitch it so it'll drain, and then add in a 60 by 117. Oh yeah, that'll probably trigger it, 60 by 107. So you'd have another stormwater BMP that you'd have to put in. So you'd have to do it twice.
Well, we're talking about this right now because of the deadline surrounding the playground equipment, right? I mean,
And that's happening either way, right?
right. So when do we need to make a decision between option one and option two as it relates specifically to the parking lot?
For plans and specs, we'd probably, we'd have to talk with the watershed first and see how quick that review was. We also have to give the final plan to the DNR, who has to get federal approval to sign off. So
Parking lot?
for the entire, if we change from last year's approved plan, if we go with option two, we have to get approval from the grant to say, yes, you can change this option.
I think that was one of the caveats.
Can we do that early December? So could we give legal a month to work with the church and to see what the shared parking agreement might look like?
We just have to cross our fingers that the review process only takes a couple weeks and versus 30 days or 60 days.
So they need to approve the parking lot or just the playground equipment?
The whole plan needs to be, our agreement with the DNR and the state or the federal government needs to be amended because we removed the pavilion from the project. So that's the true amendment. They need the final site plan of what we are going to do in the project.
The initial grant said the city was going to spend $700,000 to get $300,000. And removing of the pavilion is not only removing that pavilion, but saying, hey, the city doesn't want to spend the 700 to get the 300. That part was approved, that yes, you can remove the pavilion, but we haven't given them an updated site plan to show that the pedestrian facilities are still there, and whether if you have a 10-foot trail going through or that parking lot.
We don't get any credit for spending money on the courts?
That wasn't part of the grant. They eliminated that part out. They added new features, but didn't take care of any of the old features. They didn't touch the old playground or the courts courts, they just added a pavilion and a brand-new park and just left the old playground and the courts as part of the Parks Commission's plan. So we're doing it in the correct order now. We're doing the courts. We'd like to redo that playground and work our way down the hill and at some point add a pavilion and add that. But really the question is should we put that parking lot in now at $150,000 or put in a trail and at some point in time later, if we decide to do it, spend even more than $150,000 to put that in? You want to do it part of this grant project where you'll see those savings, or do you want to do it later on and have to sit here and talk through it again about should we do this parking lot or shouldn't we do this parking lot?
It seems like we have at least consensus on option one. Of the base, yes, we should move forward with the base project. The question is, do we add in the additional parking? Is that where we are, Council? Yeah. What did you say? Yes.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And the risk of not including option two at this point, and not moving forward with the parking lot, the portion of option two at this point, is that there is, if we wanted to do it in the future, it's a more expensive project, correct?
You would have to remove your trail, then add back your parking lot, plus trigger stormwater. Again, you wouldn't have to go through the grant process and get approvals through that. You just have to internally.
I really wish that when we got that initial proposal, there would have been action taken on it, but that's water under the bridge. I mean, if we go with option one.
When you say the initial proposal, which one?
From the church.
Oh.
Because if we go with option one, then we got to go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a bad choice.
It's a bad choice.
One.
Mayor Bain.
Yes.
I've been kind of giving Amanda some updates about this discussion.
Yes.
Specifically pertaining to the shared parking agreement with the church. And she does state that it's a very aggressive ask that the church is coming in with compared to where we are now. She would like to bring this forward to the development team meeting again on Wednesday with staff to discuss it a little bit further. The edict that she was working under was to not move forward on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's where it's sat. But the challenge right now is that it's not just the church at St. Pete's that's involved in this, it's the higher archdiocese as well. And that's where the more restrictive asks are coming in from the church, so.
So with that option, is there a suggestion that perhaps we table this evening and bring back for next council meeting? Is that, seems like that may be wise, but.
Legal right now suggests that it would be better for the city to pay more upfront and to have the parking built in for a private lot than to be going back and forth with this parking access agreement in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting long-term. This could be a short-term with the church and then Beltz, but I mean.
I'm going to take a stab at a motion this evening, and this is a tough one. So no offense if there's a lot of disagreement. I'm going to move that council move ahead with option 2. And is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
What the time frame, if we do, I think her first response that, Jolene, that you read from Amanda was to bring this back to development on Wednesday. So what is the timeline problem if we do that and this is tabled and it comes back up. The other thing is we're absent a council member who is our park liaison person.
Fair.
That's not here to help make the decision. This is not a minor decision, dollar-wise. And I know we've drugged this thing on and on and on. But a lot of that has to do with not having a Parks Commission for the last 2 years.
Is there a cost if we hold decision for 2 weeks until we can get consensus from the development team meeting? And in fairness to Amanda, she was told to sit on this, that she was told to take no action.
The other thing too, I mean, we've had closed sessions of other agreements. I'd like to know the details of this. I mean, being asked, I know some of you have the details, being asked to make a decision.
Only of high level, like.
But without the details of this agreement that they're proposing or what their new proposal is. It's that I don't.
Could we, David, are we missing anything, are we missing out on anything if we were to table this for 2 weeks?
So if I'm hearing council correctly, you are all in favor of the playground being up on the top and going forward with that. So on the 28th, I could bring that back for approval with an actual cost and also come back with seeking approval for option 1 or option 2, and then approving plans and specs at that point in time. We're sending it to the grant. So we could move this to the 28th, because I'd have to come back anyway to get approval for the playground and get a hard number on that. And that number is an estimate, so if the playground comes down and makes the parking lot more appetizing, or the playground goes up and makes it less appetizing. And I would then give staff the talk with legal at our development team meeting. I still think either way, that 28th would be a hard stop for either option 1 or 2, so we know direction, because I don't know how long it'll take the federal government to review. I don't want to wait 60 days and then all of a sudden now it's January, and then we have to rush plans and specs and try to get stormwater figured out, and then now I'm there in July asking you to amend the contract for the 5th time to extend it another 3 months to do this. So they're being very accommodating to us, the DNR. They want us to spend this money, but I think at some point they may lose some patience and say, we'll give it to somebody else who wants to spend this money. So we have to just be kind of cautious of that as well, that they've kind of let us drag this out. But we can all make a decision on the 28th. That would be fantastic, and we can get something going.
Just to be clarified, we want to spend this money, this grant money, we just do want to do it right and not rushed.
I would agree. With that additional clarification, I rescind the motion. Does anyone want any other discussion before we table? Does anyone want, I move that we table this conversation till October 28th. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second from Councilmember Husnick. All in favor of tabling, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And it's tabled. Thank you all. Next, we're going to move to our final action item of the evening, which is consideration of Resolution 1014-2402, accepting donation from Grand Casino, and I move that council approve with gratitude. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And motion carries. All right, we're going to move into a workshop topic this evening. This is a more informal working session of council. Anything that we talk about in this session that requires a vote will come forward on a future agenda. With that, we're going to move into a discussion on your boat club. And Abby.
Mayor Bain, members of the council, in 2011, the EDA issued an RFP for a marina to be located in Lakeside Memorial Park. A year later, the former park board entered into a lease agreement with your boat club. That was a 10-year lease agreement for them to operate a 24-slip marina. 12 of the slips would be rental slips, and then there'd be slips available for their own fleet. In 22, we opted to enter into a new agreement, just carrying on those terms of the 10-year agreement, kind of kicked it out a couple years. We're up against the time again, unfortunately, where the lease agreements are expired. I asked Your Boat Club, they are interested in continuing a partnership with the city of Forest Lake in Lakeside Memorial Park. They did provide some data for us. I do want to correct for the record, they included in my staff report was that they had 14 slip rentals. They actually only have 12. They are not in violation of their lease. But some data for you. 35% of their slips are rented out to Forest Lake mailing residents or residents with a mailing address, 21% to the Forest Lake area. The general rentals, so what the general public may not be aware of is that they can rent a boat from Your Boat Club. They don't have to be a member. They can rent one of their rental fleets, but 62% of their rentals were not from Forest Lake, and 13% were from out of state. So they are actually bringing people into the Forest Lake area that are not from the Forest Lake area. And then within their membership rental category, about almost 70% of them are from the metro area outside the Forest Lake area. So they really are drawing people from the region to Forest Lake. They additionally provided me with some more detail with their 23 total reservations to 24 total reservations. In 23, they had just about 900 reservations. In 24, that went up to almost 1,400 or 1,350. So their presence is increasing. They did let me know that if you kind of took that as a 5 people per boat trip out, that would probably be about 7,000 visitors just this last year to the Forest Lake area. So they're really trying to show that they're an asset to the Forest Lake community, and from an economic development perspective, I would say that still continues to ring true. So tonight, the direction was really to see whether or not we wanted to move forward with a renewed lease, something longer, shorter, given the fact that, again, it was cited tonight, we don't have a park commission in place. Staff would not recommend that we enter into a new 10-year agreement. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we would like to be able to negotiate these with commission input. Also, Your Boat Club has discussed with staff that they would like the consideration for potential expansion. The Lakeshore Shoreline Improvement Plan also talks about consolidating the boating facilities down there. And any sort of expansion or consolidation would require an environmental assessment worksheet from the DNR. So knowing that there's opportunities and that both the city and Your Boat Club would like to explore, staff really feels that entering into a new lease is appropriate, but maybe something in a little bit of a shorter term, 3 years, to give us some time to kind of work through some of those nuances, not only get some new staff in, get new commissions in, but then really sit down and work through what would be the goal from both bodies about trying to either expand the facilities, consolidate the facilities, improve the operations, offerings, those sorts of things in that 3-year time period. So tonight for you, it's just discussion, providing us with direction to see if whether or not you want to move forward with a lease. If so, a shorter one, a longer one. But again, it'd be my recommendation that we look at maybe that 3-year timeline with no substantial changes, maybe just looking at rate changes based on market trends and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Abby. Let's just open it up. Feedback for Abby based on the topic.
So those are some impressive numbers. I was on the EDA when we started this back then, and that was the goal. So I'm glad to hear those numbers. In short term, to not combine both, if we were to add some additional dock slips, would that trigger DNR study? So we're maxed out right now before.
The marina is entirely maxed out without needing to do, any change wouldn't require an EAW.
And what does that consist of cost-wise?
I haven't looked into it just because the timeline right now, knowing that this lease is up for consideration for their springtime operations, we certainly could look into that. They haven't provided us with any sort of a proposal. I don't imagine, though, that we would be through that process between the combination of, so we also, the city issued them a conditional use permit on the property in the teens, and so we'd have to go back and we'd have to amend that. So there's a number of different entitlements that would probably take a number of months to get through. I can look at costs for it to see.
Or go a little bit further. So you're,
So if it's longer term to combine both, that's going to take some time. Short term, if we can increase that visitor count up and more people downtown, and it didn't require much other than adding a couple more, some more footage and some slips. The current layout of that dock just seems like it'd be good to, good to explore.
Sure. One thing they did let me know is the permissions that the city has given is 12, they can lease 12 long-term slip spaces. They're at a reduced rate for Forest Lake residents, or a standard market rate for non-residents. They have not actually been filling their full slip space, all 12. So there is maybe an opportunity to increase more rental boat space, either for their members or general rentals to increase those visitors. But that would then be going back to some of those original approval documents, not changing the total number of boats, but the type of products offered could be an option for increasing some of that. Does that make sense?
It does. It just seems a little, I'm talking with the owners of Tim's and Marina, they got a waiting list out there. So it's just surprising that there's available slips downtown.
I wouldn't doubt that that's just because of the lease rate that we locked in at. It's I haven't looked at market rates, but I think that it's a very low rate, and there might not be an incentive to necessarily fill those lease spaces.
So my inclination coming into this was, yes, absolutely, we should renew. My thought process was renew for a shorter term, just because, not because I would suggest that we are parting ways in the near term, but more so just letting us work through what our long-term dock needs are, work through their long-term plan, and come up with an agreement, kind of along the lines of where Councilmember Roberts is going. But we're not, so I think we should express interest in building a long-term plan, and let's look at a short-term lease renewal to kind of be that bridge document to get us there. It seems, I would hate for us not to move ahead and also start to enter into some of those longer-term discussions. We're just not in the place this minute to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm agreeable to that.
Yeah, me too. Shorter.
Sure. Is the council kind of favorable with maybe that 3-year term? We saw what we kind of did with 2 years. We had some staffing changes, commission changes. I just don't know with where we're sitting at this point that we'd get a whole lot of movement in 25, but that would then give us still some time to get those negotiations.
I would be fine with a 3-year if there's something written in there that if both parties agreed to amend that at a shorter time, we could do that.
Like to give them some stability, right? And so
Yeah.
maybe that longer term gives them some stability, but also exactly what Councilmember Roberts suggested, an option to revisit sooner, and then also us as a city to have that motivation and commitment that we are staffing that and giving that the attention to move ahead sooner.
Great. Well, I think they'll be excited to hear this as well, and that just kind of helps us keep moving forward with seeing what we might be able to do there.
Anything else on this topic? All right. We do have a closed session this evening, but before we move into that closed session, let's do staff and council updates, and we'll start with Jolene.
Just a quick reminder that we're currently accepting applications for some 2025 commission vacancies. We will have 2 terms expiring on the Airport Commission in 2025 and 3 terms expiring on the EDA. So if folks are interested, please visit our website and apply. And any questions can be directed to me. I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jolene. Abby.
The only update that I have is we did receive CDA notice of just housing tax credits that would be used within the city. That is for Metis Investments to purchase West Ridge Townhomes. That's on 12th Street North. Essentially, they're looking at a substantial rehabilitation of that project. Is already to still continue to provide affordable rents within the community. I don't plan on sending any comment. I just felt like the city would be in support of a rehabilitation project to preserve that affordable housing stock. So just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you, Abby. Dave?
Just one update. Cal Young, our new Parks and Rec coordinator, started today. So Abby's happy that she's offloading some work on him, and he's full of ambition and is ready to change the world. So we wish him luck, and it's another one of those thankless jobs. He's gonna get a lot of stuff done, but also wondering why he's not doing a lot. So but he's raring to go, and we should see some good things coming out of Parks. It's nice to have somebody there full-time now to concentrate on Parks and Recreation.
Perfect. Dave, do we still have active conversations going on with the contractor for the pickleball court, or what is current status on that?
At this point, we do not. The part that was left out of the conversations was the bubbling happened, but the pickleballers were on their hands and knees picking the bubbles off. So it is true, it's off-gassing of the concrete, and we're told don't pick the bubbles, but as soon as Public Works was there, they were picking the bubbles off of there. So it's not really a workmanship. I mean, it's just concrete will off-gas, and that will happen. A lot of the moisture just coming out of the concrete. As far as the hairline cracks, that was mentioned and said when we did this overcoat that they were going to come right back through. So I don't know where it got misconstrued, but it's definitely that overcoat. It wasn't a full rehab. A full rehab was $60,000 or $70,000, and the council opted to go with the cheaper of just the overcoat.
Right.
But those cracks were going to come right through.
Can I just a
Please.
follow-up question? So these depressions, I was out there, the depressions that were fixed, how does that happen from just pulling up? I'm not following that. Doesn't make sense.
That's something we could have them look if it's not level, if there's still depressions in there, but that overcoat, the layer that when they pulled the bubbles off, they created a void, so the epoxy cover was off. So it did make holes in there. So if they weren't filled all the way back full, that's something we can have them come out and try to level off. But as far as the workmanship, that's part of that off-gassing, and it would have been different if he would have went and picked them all off, but that's not the case.
And then is there, so that's been fully paid, I'm assuming was there any retainage in that contract or anything?
No, it's strictly a maintenance project, so the contractor will come back, but when you have a patch like that, you're never gonna color match exactly the same. You're taking an epoxy, a colored epoxy, and then trying to match it with a paint color.
And the same contractor that did that is doing the Beltz project, correct?
Correct, yep.
Given they've got an active project in the city, and I'd hope they'd try to find some resolution or some solution that gets to a more satisfactory result for the users.
At our next construction meeting, we can go out there, the contractor and I can go out to the pickleball courts and take a look at the depressions. I mean, if it's leveling that needs to be done, I'm sure he's not gonna have a problem leveling them.
I think that's worth looking at.
But the patches aren't gonna they're not gonna match up. Even if they level, it'll be a different color. It's just
fair.
He ran into a project where he just did a complete track and a bunch of kids ran through it, and now they have a $100,000 track with footprints in it that they patched together, but your patches are the footprints. So you run into it, but you're never gonna get it back to, unless you recoat the whole entire thing. Those will remain.
To be clear, track not in Forest Lake, right?
Not in Forest Lake, in a city, so it's unnamed city.
Yes. Okay, and then I received an email Sunday, I believe sometime over the weekend, related to, from Clear Lake Lake Association, related to Beaver Dam issues, and I have not had an opportunity to respond to that. Dave, you and I can connect on what we might be able to do, or what, if that's a handoff with Watershed District. Again, I'm a little flat-footed on this topic, but at least wanted to acknowledge it.
Yep, so it's in Rice Creek and it's holding back Clear Lake, but the Beaver Dam is in Columbus, and so it's out of our city, and I don't really know how they're gonna get to it. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Oof.
So I know Rice Creek was going to go and look at it, and they know where it's at. You almost might have to wait till winter and freeze up to try to get out there and bust it out then, but it's just in a bad spot.
And so have you had recent conversations with them? Are they on it, or?
I just had talked to John Waller before the meeting, and Rice Creek is aware, and they were gonna talk to the DNR as well, to try to at least get trappers out there to stop the beavers, and then figure out how to take the dam down after that, I think. You don't wanna take the dam down before you get rid of the beavers, because you gotta use the dam to attract them than to getting trapped, so. Kind of step one is eradicating, and then step two is getting rid of the dam.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Dave? Chief Peterson?
No updates.
All right. Chief Newman?
No updates.
Kevin?
Excuse me, Mayor and City Council, I've been working on getting the documents ready for the budget open house that will be held on November 12th before the regularly scheduled City Council meeting. I will also be working on getting the online survey response up for that online budget open house. Tentatively planning to have that start and open on October 21st and go through October 30th. Therefore, give residents enough time to respond. We would post this on our Facebook page a couple times to push it, put it in our newsletter to get the word out there that it's available. I will send an update when it's out there, and then it'll also give me enough time to get all the results and then have that ready for our discussion on the 12th as well.
Thank you, Kevin.
Excuse me, what was the time? It was the 12th, but there was a time?
Right now, we're looking at from 5:30 to 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Ryan?
Mayor, City Council, no updates unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. Council updates. Councilmember Erickson?
No updates tonight.
Councilmember Husnick?
No updates.
Councilmember Roberts?
Nothing this evening.
And nothing this evening from me either. With that, we are going to move into a closed session. I move that council move into closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D03 for labor negotiation strategy. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second from Councilmember Husnick. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose. And we're in closed session. Thanks, everyone.